Howdy everyone. No tea today, so get the usual tip recording this late after apologize for this episode out today. But anyways, I'm Runt. Welcome to Fireside Chat, the show where I tell you guys a little bit more about myself and how content creation is going, that good stuff. I'm gonna start this off by saying once I apologize for this episode being late. I talked about not wanting to get into this habit and wanting to make sure that I'm being careful. Put this mic a little bit closer. I want to make sure that things do not slip. And I've been dealing with an addiction to Battletech over the past week. I tried it out last turn-based Thursday from a recommendation from Adrian, one of the close followers of the stream. And since then, I've basically just spent every spare second that I have playing that game. And last night, I did my usual One Step from Eden and Nova Drift recordings for the day, and was like, I'll do Fireside Chat in the morning. Which, Fireside Chats on Wednesday morning, usually pretty easy to knock out. Unfortunately, I didn't knock it out. I woke up late because I stayed up late playing Battletech. I started working and completely forgot. And I have the checklist and everything, and I'm trying to be better. But I do think these types of things are going to happen from time to time. But I think what I really want to do is talk a little bit more about how I'm feeling as a content creator. And I think it kind of begins with not putting out a review video. And I kind of, the night before, was like, I'm dreading this. I'm dreading putting out a review video. This is a hobby. If I'm dreading doing my hobby, what am I even doing? I don't dread my streams. I look forward to my streams. I get excited about my streams. I usually get excited about the usual Let's Plays on YouTube. I usually enjoy the looks at, although sometimes it's a little bit painful to find a game to play. But I usually get excited about those as well. My excitement is starting to wane for Nova Drift, and I do think that Friday's episode this week will be the last one of the season. We'll kind of, roll the Nova Drift series off. We'll finish up with the top 10 Nova Drift items on Sunday, and I'm excited about starting the top 10 series, but I think I'm done with Nova Drift for now. And switching games every week has started to become a little bit problematic. Sometimes finding a new game to play is difficult, and that's how this last week we ended up with One Step from Eden, even though I know that One Step from Eden isn't necessarily the most popular game from a viewership perspective, because if you don't play the game, it's not nearly as fun to watch, because the chaos is hard to follow unless you've already been following it yourself by playing. But last week, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, so One Step from Eden's probably my favorite game at the moment, so let's just do that for a week. So this is where I'm like, all right, well, Battletech is my favorite game right now. Let's start a Battletech campaign. But there's no, 7 days of content, 30-minute episodes, 45-minute episodes. We're going to get nowhere. That is such a short amount of time in Battletech. So I'm like, let's just go ahead and make it one out of question mark. And just start the series and let's go. And just see how long it goes on for. And, at this point, on YouTube, the numbers are way down. Way, way, way down. I think the Twitch VODs kind of killed the channel for a lot of subscribers. And, I apologize for that as well. I didn't realize that Twitch VODs would do that. And I do also realize that I was kind of spamming them a little bit. And I think what may have been better is just export the whole VOD instead of splitting them up, so that if you want to consume the content in one big chunk, you can. But I think we'll kind of come back to that. And, I've had a couple people offer to cut the videos together, or not cut them together, but go through the Twitch stream and cut out the good bits and kind of splice them together, kind of way to say it. I think for now, you know, I want to refocus YouTube on kind of what we're doing. And this was, we talked about this in the May channel update earlier this week, that I just want to refocus on what was working, on what I enjoy. This is a hobby. And if I don't enjoy it, then why am I doing it? Sorry about the yawning. So also, last time when I thought I was sick, it turned out to just be mold in the house. So I wasn't actually sick. You know, I was allergies, which is kind of what I'm used to. Now it appears as if I have a fever. And I found that out midstream because I'm just like, I'm sitting in here under the usual circumstances that I've been in. It's not one of the hottest days we've had outside. I've got the blinds open. I've got the fan on high. I've got my floor standing fan blowing in air from outside the room since... sorry. And I was just sitting here like sweating. And I went and took my temperature, and I had already taken some Advil for a headache I'd been having. I've had a headache the past couple days. And it was already a little bit, the fever was already a little bit increased from where it should be with Advil. So, looks like I may be dealing with actually being sick, which is unfortunate. You know, last time I didn't have a fever, and it didn't settle in my sinuses at all. But I can already kind of feel it settling in my sinuses a little bit. I can feel some congestion building, and that's obviously highly unfortunate because that means I have to breathe through my mouth while I'm talking, and that means that less oxygen is getting to my brain, which is causing yawning. Even though 3 hours ago, right before the stream, I had some tea, so I have caffeine in my system right now. But I don't want this to turn into a complaint session. No, that's not what Fireside Chat is about. Even though it is kind of a decent place to let out some, not some anger and frustration, but more just like let out some of the stress and just kind of talk about it. Just let you guys know what's going on. So where we're kind of at this point is we actually had a really good stream today. You know, I want to double check the viewership. I didn't check it, but it felt like it was up. And that was with Adrian and Yudi, two of the close followers of the channel, two of the people who make just about every stream. They left pretty early on, and we had we still had pretty good numbers overall. And yeah, it definitely built up towards the end. It was a little bit slow in the beginning, and again, you know, one step from Eden, not the highest viewer count in the world. But it did pretty well overall, all things considered. And, you know, I think that refocusing on the way that I want to produce content, producing the content that I would want to watch, is just a better way to do things. You know, trying to force the energy, trying to fake the energy. I kind of liked what it did, but I also kind of didn't. I mean, for one, it strained my voice. But also, you know, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry about the yawning. I'm getting a little congested right now, and so it's hard for me to breathe properly. I feel bad because I wanna do the best that I can for you guys, for the community, for my subscribers, for my followers, for the people in Discord. And sometimes I feel like I let you guys down. You know, a lot of the experiments throughout April brought viewership down, it brought engagement down, and, you know, I think that the quality of streams suffered. I think the quality of YouTube content suffered. And, you know, again, forcing myself to do parts of this that I may not necessarily enjoy, like the review videos. I like the format that I put together, and whatever the new format is still going to include the final tiers. But, you know, a little bit more context on that. Essentially, I had to record 3 different chunks. The, you know, 1-minute intro, the 5 minutes of gameplay, and the 15 to 20 minutes of review talking in front of the camera. Then I had to splice them together in Adobe Premiere Rush, which I think you guys have heard me complain about Premiere Rush before and how slow it is, and definitely works better for cutting together small things, but its caching mechanism for loading everything in is just horrendous, and I do not like it. I think part of it may be that it's copying things off of my non-SSD, my storage drive, and trying to copy them over so it can process them or cache them. Sorry about the I'm gonna power through it. But like doing all that and then rendering it overnight, or rendering it when I'm not doing anything like cooking dinner or something, it takes about 30 minutes to render one of those, which is kind of painful. And there are a couple things that I didn't like about the format as well. For some games, 5 minutes of gameplay is more than enough. But for most games, 5 minutes of gameplay, and I've barely even scratched the surface. There are a lot of games where 30 minutes isn't going to be enough for you to know whether or not you would like the game. And I think the biggest thing is, from a review perspective, why do you need to see my face while I'm giving the scores? I mean, sure, you can see my face from like a normal down in the bottom right corner while we're playing a game perspective, but I could just be playing the game for 20 minutes, commentate over it, and yeah, I think it's nice to have the scores and everything on the screen, but what if I just played a game for 20 minutes, talked about the things I like and the things I didn't like, and then gave you my final ranking at the end? Because I do think that the tier ranking has a good combination of the right level of granularity. Like, the difference between Transcendent and Special is pretty clear, at least in my mind. The difference between each tier is fairly clear, but there's some wiggle room in each tier as to, where it would place. I wouldn't necessarily say Rocket League is my favorite game of all time, but it's definitely up there. It's very much up there. Top 3, top 5, for sure. And so by saying Transcendent, it encompasses that. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's an evergreen, that type of thing. And I think that's a perfect example. And if I were to show you one match of Rocket League, so 5 minutes in a review, I mean, obviously I'm not going to review Rocket League at this point. It's very old and I already know whether you like it or not. But, a 5-minute match is more than enough for you to see if you would like it. But there have definitely been a couple games, like One Step from Eden, I think I did like a floor, or not even a floor, like a couple battles. You didn't really get to see the deck building or the artifacts or any of that. The different room types. I don't think we even fought a boss. So you didn't even get to see a boss battle. Whereas if we did 20, 30 minutes, we could do almost a whole run while I'm talking about the game and reviewing it. And then whenever we die, whether it be at a boss or in a room, or we beat the final boss, whenever the run is over, I could just show you guys what I think. And that feels like it would be much better. And also with the card system, I went into it thinking, what are different metrics that I personally judge a game by? And while I do think core gameplay loop and replayability are two of the more important things, I almost completely neglect atmosphere. I mean, yes, I appreciate graphically pleasing games and games with completely bad atmosphere I won't play, but really what that means is if the graphics are too pixely, too low resolution. There have been a couple games where it's like, this seems like it's worse than 8-bit. Like, there's just not enough pixels on the screen. But I can appreciate good pixel art. Like, if you want to try to play Pokemon, red level of pixels at 1920 by 1080, sure, I can handle that. Just don't go lower than that. But the sound design, it can be a plus, but it's almost never a minus for me. And so the vast majority of the time when I'm giving my reviews, you can pretty much skip the atmosphere part. You can mostly skip the difficulty part because difficulty does matter. But if the game is fun enough, I'm going to overcome the difficulty. Like, the core gameplay loop trumps the difficulty entirely. And, the thought of being granular with this was to give everyone more of a chance to piece together the parts that made the most sense to them. But the biggest one is I'm sitting here reviewing games in early access and then trying to rate the support. Almost, and I mean, I'm going to say this pretty harshly. This is judging myself pretty harshly. Almost every single support rating I gave was complete and utter BS. I tried my best based off of, the 2 weeks that the game had been in early access, how many times the developer had patched the game. Like, it's absolute nonsense. And any of you who watched the reviews knew that it was nonsense. And there were multiple times that I'm like, this game is too early for me to judge the support, which is what I should have done with every single early access game I reviewed. How can you review the support in an early access game? You can't. Like, yeah, I can talk about the developers are putting out patches, they're putting out content updates, there's Steam Workshop support, and all those are good additions to the overall score. But unless the game has been out for 2 years and they've released a couple DLC and they've released free content updates and things like that, and there's workshop support, can you really rate the support of a game? I don't think so. And when I get to the point where I don't even like my own review system, and I certainly don't want to spend the time to cut the videos together, that's why I yeeted them. And it's not that I'm going to stop doing reviews. I still think that next Tuesday we're going to do a Runt 9 reviews. I plan on it. But I also think that it's just going to be me playing the game, commentating, and giving you a final score at the end. And basically, I'll put a timestamp in the description of when I talk about what my final tier ranking is. And I do still like the Transcendent, Special, Solid, Mediocre, Rough, and Failure tiers. I like all of those. I just don't necessarily know that all of the other things make the most sense. And I think that I can encompass my opinions by just talking about, I like the core gameplay loop. I think this game has a lot of legs with its replayability. I don't like this art piece, or, the music is kind of bad. But I kind of outsmarted myself. I tried to be all like, oh, look at this proprietary review system. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of my reviews are some of the most watched videos on the channel. I think the Gordian Quest review is the second most viewed video behind the channel intro. But I don't think the watch time was necessarily very high. And again, it feels wrong looking back at it. Like, I wouldn't watch a review of a game that is 5 minutes of gameplay and 25 minutes of some dude talking with very, very minor editing thrown in. But why would I produce that? The reviews that I used to watch, when I watched reviews instead of just read like one positive and one negative review on Steam to make my decision, was Total Biscuit. The WTF is series. Also, rest in peace. One of the better content creators that I've ever seen on YouTube. And his series was literally just, I'm gonna press record. I'm going to talk for 20 to 30 minutes about this game. I'm going to tell you what I think. Very brutally honest. If this game has problems, I'm going to point them out. And that's what I wanted to model myself after without copying. I think I went too far the other direction. I was like, here, let me make this complicated proprietary system that I need to tell people, if you don't know what this system is, go watch this intro video in the description. Like, that's not good. So that's why we're changing this. And again, I think a more fluid format that can adapt to the game. Different games are going to require different review formats. I want to be able to showcase the different aspects of a game. And if I am going to cut things together, I'd rather do things like, if there's customization, but the very start of a game is really slow, then maybe I cut after the customization, play for 30 minutes or an hour on my own, start recording again, and show you a little bit more in-depth gameplay. There's a lot of different things that could potentially change what you want to see in a game. Let's say I was doing a roguelike, maybe we would do a floor or two, and then I would cut it and then show you like way later on, once we've got a bunch of artifacts and cards or whatever the case may be. One Step From Eden being a great example. I could probably do a 10-minute review of that game very, very easily. And I think I just overcomplicated things. And so, obviously, like, this is something where I'd very much like to hear you guys' feedback on this. Let me know what you think about the old review system and a new system being a little bit more fluid and potentially faster. Pretty much every review that I put out was around that 30-minute mark, and that's a lot of information to take in. Realistically, 10 minutes for a lot of games, especially some of these smaller early access games, that's more than enough for me to get all my thoughts out. And I ramble a lot? Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm rambling about this topic right now. But I do think that some games don't need 30 minutes. And, I mean, if you're looking between two reviews on YouTube, and one of them is 10 minutes and one of them is 30 minutes, and the 30 minutes is, the thumbnail is... Well, I guess I always did make the thumbnail of gameplay, but that also wasn't representative because the gameplay was literally like 1/6 of the video. But you start watching and it's just some dude's face, and the second one is actually playing the game. Probably gonna watch the second one. I can get the same amount of information in 10 minutes. This guy's gonna give me in 30. Yeah, don't waste my time. I'm gonna spend the extra 20 minutes doing something more productive, like buying and playing the game. So anyways, I don't want to sit here and rant about that, but it was just a realization that I'm like, this series is not where it should be, and I want my reviews to be better. I want the reviews to be better for the community. I want them to be more approachable, and, I do know that people respect editing, and edited videos are going to be viewed more. But I also don't have a lot of time to do editing. And rather than put out less content that I have to spend a lot of time editing and rendering, I figure let's just use this as an opportunity to do more streamlined videos. And by not giving myself that buffer of, oh, I screwed up, I can edit that out, I think it forces me to be better in front of a camera. And that's why I like these I'm going to hit record and just go type things. I personally feel that it works out better for me, and I will be a better content creator as time goes on because of it. From there, I'm also like, especially adding the top 10 videos in, that's one where, forget about Premiere Rush. Like, I already threw that away. Like, I'm going to go back to Premiere Pro. It's what I'm used to. It's what I used for years. I know how to use the transitions and splitting audio tracks and all that stuff so much easier. And for the top 10 list, I'm going to use Premiere Pro and just enjoy that. Because like the top 10 list, I know that's something I can get excited about. And I can do so many different topics. Part of my inspiration for that, or probably my whole inspiration for that, there's two things. Basically, the little bit of time where Northern Lion earlier this year started doing tier lists on YouTube. We watched all of those and really enjoyed them. They got a bunch of views. They got a lot of conversation started, and that, I like that aspect, the conversation starters. The debates about, oh, you put this in your S tier? Oh, okay. I see. I disagree, and here's why. Can it get a little bit heated? Yeah, sure. It's the internet. Like, obviously, you got to accept the fact that there's going to be trolls and... Sorry, chills. That's fever symptoms. I was warm and now I'm cold. Yeah, so the tier list kind of got me in that mindset of like, I want to do stuff like that that's me giving my opinions on things besides just the reviews. But also, I'm an avid board gamer, and even though I don't watch that much anymore, my favorite content creator for board gaming is the Dice Tower, and I love their top 10 list. I'm sad that Sam Healy is gone, but I mean, he also took a better job. But even then, like Tom Vassell and Z Garcia are incredibly fun. I enjoy the banter of the top 10s, and I love the discussion that comes from like, oh, you put that on your list? No way. I like that. I think it's really cool. And so taking the top 10 idea from the board gaming stuff and throwing it into, this environment where we're talking about video games, it makes sense. Like, we can still very easily do top 10 lists. You know, at the end of the year, I can do kind of a top 10 extravaganza. You know, what were my top 10 games of the year? What were the top 10 roguelikes or top 10 strategy games or whatever the case may be? And I mean, maybe I wouldn't necessarily have enough for every category. Top 10 games of the year, absolutely I would. But, you know, maybe top 5 in some of the other categories. Make those a little bit shorter. I like what that opens up, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, will it end up going the same route as the reviews? Honestly, I don't think so. Depends on how much work I put on myself, but, you know, doing the 10 through 1 transitions and everything like that, you know, keeping the list in front of me, reading out what it is, and coming up with ideas, like, I don't see it being that problematic. You know, I think I can pull that off fairly easily, and, you know, it will require more editing, oh, for sure. But I think that I will enjoy doing those more. And again, like, I realize that it's once a week, and, you know, there'll probably be some weeks where I'm like, guys, honestly, I don't have the time for a top 10 video. But for the most part, I'm excited about that. And I'm pretty sure that I'm, like, talking in a circle at this point. Honestly, I'm a little bit foggy right now, and I think that it's probably a good idea. I'm running out of topics to talk about, and my brain's kind of shutting off. So we're going to go ahead and end the Fireside chat here. A little bit early. You know, we usually go 30 minutes, but I have reasons right now. So that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I don't do advertising, so, you know, that's gonna be it. Once again, I'm really sorry that this is going up a day late. I'm going to continue trying to make sure that doesn't happen, but unfortunately I can't promise anything because I am human, and I am also incredibly addicted to Battletech. So, hopefully you enjoyed today's Battletech episode that, when you're watching this, went up this morning. We're going to start a new campaign, see what happens. But anyways, that's going to do it. Until the next episode, I'm Runt9. I'll see you later. The recording button is here.